lost, for those who are being abused, for those who have absolutely no hope and no voice. And again, I am a strong believer, and I do believe that we are where we are in order for us to help somebody else. I have asked that question, why do you even care? You know, you're an American citizen, but at the end of the day, it's not whether or not I was born here or I was born there. You don't choose where you were born, right? So therefore, I'm not going to judge somebody just because.
Just because of where they were born.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And tell them you don't belong here.
Right.
You don't deserve to have the same right that I do. When I know that you actually do, because God is a God of all.
And so I giggle and they applauded, and we decided that I'm in a paper bag now.
Aww.
And I'm looking forward to the day that I'm either in a plastic bag where you can just wiggle and jiggle, or maybe there's no bag or box at all. So that's what I'm working forward, is the day when I'm set free of anything that binds me to judgment.
That's beautiful.
Huge, huge piece of what I'm to talk to you about today is quit passing judgment. Quit judging other people. Look at them and say, wow, what a journey they've been on. I hope they found their magic. So learn not to judge.
Yeah, I think that is perfect. And that's like the most useful advice. Would you say that a big part of somebody changing their health has to do with their eating?
Yes. The emotions are also driven. However, it's what we are putting in our mouths. And today we all know our resource of food is not at the height. Even our organic places. We have got to take back control to what we are doing to our bodies. The bodies have remained the same. The cellular structure is the same. The amount of cells that we have in the body is not changing. The cells every 30 to 32 days change. So we need to address that. What we put in our mouths, how we put it in our mouths is vital, but it's not the only answer.
Right. It's a lot of things like exercise and
our lifestyle, the emotions, what's going on at home, what's going on in your job.
So I didn't want to go to college right away because I was kind of burnt out and done with school. And I thought, okay, what could I do that I could do anywhere in the world? Because that was my criteria. And so I thought, maybe I could be a teacher. But I didn't like kids. So that was done. And then I thought, I could be a nurse, but I don't like sick people and whiners. And so then I thought, hey, I could do hair. You can do hair anywhere in the world. And how hard would that be to learn? And that's how I chose to go into hair. And my mother kind of flipped out a little bit because I graduated with a pretty high GPA. She goes, you could go to college anywhere. And in her era, people that did hair, they did it as a side job or they weren't smart enough to go to school. I mean, that was the thought process then. So anyway, I went to beauty school and...
People tend to think sometimes mistakenly that being online, if their service is online, then they're already global. And that's a mistake. That's not true. That's really not true. That's not, there's many more things than just I'm global, I'm online, or I'm online, and then it means that I can talk to anybody that understands my language. That's not true. As you've asked me many questions about culture, that's why culture is culture. And we talk about culture not only of countries, we talk about culture even in companies, right? And we talk even culture, as you know, it's not the same to do business in Texas than to do business in Illinois, right? This is a reality. And I have met a lot of, business owners that they struggle just taking their business from one state to another state, because there's different things that you have to take into account. right? So it's the exact same thing. It's just a matter of having a conversation and testing the waters and testing the product and services in that particular geography, obviously with the right customization of that product, the right localization, and the right partnerships. And that's something that we have worked heavily, like how to get to a particular market with those specific, partners that we already have there.
What is it like singing in front of an audience?
Oh man, it's exhilarating. Sometimes I'll look at the stage before anyone shows up and I get really anxious about it, because I think like, oh my gosh, there's going to be too many people here, I'm going to be nervous. But then once I go on stage, like you just really feed off of their energy. And so it's really not scary anymore like it used to be for me. I mean, still, like, I haven't played like crazy big shows where it's like stadiums or anything. That freaks me out, but I know one day I'm gonna have to like deal with that one day, like hopefully. So I try not to get anxious about it, but it's pretty fun though, because you just really feel the warmth of people. Like even when you just meet someone, it's like you feel their energy, but it's like a bunch of people.
Taught these labels, these differences, these perceptions about, you have to look a certain way, you have to behave a certain way, you have to follow this, you have to follow that. Nobody really tells you that, beyond all this, there's a soul, which is yours. And, no matter how much you fight it, that will be unique to you. And not even your own parents are going to know what's about it. Like only you know yourself, only you know your soul and what makes it happy. So I think the part of the problem is that we've been born and raised to grow as codependent individuals rather than, self-reliant, self-loving individuals. I think the concept of love is so tweaked in their own perceptions that it has lost its essence. I think we need to teach. And I think part of the reasons why I, reach out to podcasts like yours or, reach out to people to have conversations like this is because I want people to know that, there is a love story that is all about you. It's not only about what we are taught in the novels or in the movies or, while growing up, what we've been told. It's also the fact that you can love yourself. I think it really matters.
So that I can allow myself to release and receive. And that is where you're going to start, is you got to get into that place. So many people give and give and give and give, is that, and I have a tendency to work with a lot of people who are in that mode of that, they don't know how to receive. They haven't flexed that muscle yet. And so these are all, vibration. I say that when I gave up my training and went into coaching, is that I stopped counting reps and started counting vibration.
Very rare occurrence at my high school. Going away to college and actually making it through the 4 years and graduating on time was very rare. I think a lot of people don't understand that when you come from a neighborhood like mine, college in itself is a dream. And that's why it's so much more of a big deal to not only make it through college, but then to continue on after towards your passion or your goal.
Non-toxic communities is that it's not just glyphosate. That's the tip of the iceberg. It is probably the most broadly used herbicide, but there's 2,4-D and all kinds of other products that are mixed in with fertilizers and sprayed around the campuses, and then pesticides are used, and what kind of cleaning products are used around the schools, and there's there are all kinds of things that really are contributing to the demise of children's health. And I know that sounds alarmist, but if you speak with endocrinologists who are the scientists who are really looking at this and its effect on multiple generations, not only the kids today and their lives, but it's everything we're exposed to is passed down over at least 4 generations. And it's cumulative. So your great, great, great grandchildren will have been exposed to things that they weren't exposed to in their lifetime, but the toxins are passed down through generations. And this is the latest science.
Our mindset, having a proper mindset, when life takes you left when you're hoping to go right, it's how how you attack that left turn that I think determines happiness and success and where your future is going to lead. I've had a lot of challenges that I've faced that have made me take a turn in life that I wasn't planning on going and wasn't prepared on going. And all of a sudden you're going down that road and that path, and if you don't make the best of it, it's just not going to work. A proper positive mindset and some good discipline to go along with it will get you everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
A bad attitude, a bad mindset is kind of like a flat tire. You're just not going to get too far until you change it.
Of folks that live very well in retirement and are extremely well funded for retirement and never earned more than $100,000 during their working career, during their entire working lives. I have folks that are making upwards of $2 million and have little to show for it. If you do not have any sort of conception or handle on your spending, you will never be able to save enough. We can all spend money, right? You have to have some sort of handle and know where your dollars are going if you are ever going to be on track with your financial planning or your retirement planning goals.
The world didn't have boundaries when it was created.
Right.
It's what we created.
Exactly.
We put the boundaries. Why? And this country was based on immigrants.
Exactly.
Like if you
Of
trace,
course, I'm sure.
if you trace
Absolutely.
back.
Right. I know that some of my family's from Germany. So it's true.
You know, of course, we're going to make mistakes and it's a process. But like if you pick up like a cookie, you're not loving yourself at that moment then.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I have this booklet I give my clients at our first appointment, and on the second page, it says, eat like you love yourself, move like you love yourself, think like you love yourself, act like you love yourself. And I'm like, I know I'm not a therapist, but it's so easy to just mindlessly.
Hyper consciousness is becoming aware of why you're doing what you're doing, and then going a layer deeper and saying, okay, I'm going to this job because I need to pay the bills. All right, layer one. Second question, do I actually enjoy what I'm doing? Okay, that's layer two. Layer three, will I regret if I don't chase my dreams eventually? Right? So it's just really digging down to the truth of the situation. And I think it's difficult and it's challenging, and it can be very painful to do that. The truth is painful. It really can be, but you have to dig to it in order to plant a new seed to grow the life that you really want. And that to me is what being hyper-conscious is. It's aware of the decisions you're making.
You are the person that you're looking to become. So, we kind of all have this idea in our minds of, for me, I want to be a policeman. I saw that in my mind. I wanted to do that. That was my passion. But yet, I had my father in my way. There were a lot of obstacles. Now, I could have just said, okay, I'll stay in business and do that. The person I wanted to be, I wasn't there yet. I wasn't that person yet. But if I would have quit or if I would have stopped, I never would have been that person. If you can see yourself doing whatever it is you want to do or whatever that purpose is, then there's a good chance you can accomplish it. But if you can't see that in your mind's eye, then there's also a pretty good chance you won't accomplish that either. You have to be able to see yourself doing that.
That out of 46 countries, what's my favorite country? And the answer is more complicated than just one country, because every country is so uniquely different, and all of them are beautiful, and all of them have gorgeous cultures and amazing cuisine and interesting histories and amazing people. So every single one of them is unique in itself. So it's really difficult to pick a favorite. Until this pandemic, there was a distinct lack of compassion.
Yeah. Yeah. The one positive thing about this is that I feel like it makes people really realize that everybody is equal. you know, and that we all are in this together and we all can make the world a better place. So in a way, it's bringing us together, even though it's a negative thing. It's helped bring the world together. Like I try and instill in my kids, but I don't know if I've done it, but I always say, it doesn't matter what somebody else thinks of you. It's what you think of yourself is the most important.
Oh, yeah. Until I was 40 years old to reach that liberation. I don't care what you think. But, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a work in progress every day.
No, now I'm not interested in what anybody thinks.
But the reality is we put a lot of pressure on other people to fulfill our needs. We've been taught to look outside of ourselves for the approval, for the love, for the like, for the support. And it's not the other person's job to do that for us. It's our job.
Right.
And people will argue that, no, my husband, you know, he needs to support me. Now I'm in his business again. It's his business how he is around me. And if you think about it, the other person never really has anything that we want or need that we cannot give to ourselves. And that is a true statement.
And that's also part of pre-qualifying people, right? Because you don't want to show somebody houses. You get them excited about a house and then come to find out they can't afford it, right? Or it isn't what they thought, or the payments, or maybe there is something on their credit holding them up from even being able to get a loan. So first and foremost, as a new buyer, I would talk to a lender. I would find out what payments you're comfortable with. I always tell people I never want to see them go house broke or house poor. I want to make sure they live within their means and that they're comfortable. I typically ask them, what are you paying right now? If they're renting or if they do own a home, what are they paying right now? And then that'll give me an idea too, okay, what do we need to be around house-wise? The other thing is when people jump on Zillow and some of this other stuff, out here, especially in the desert, we have a lot of HOAs or lease land. Well, those HOAs are basically an extra payment on top of your mortgage, right? The lease land is an extra payment on top.
I get to park a lot.
Yeah.
And bicyclists come up behind me and they don't know that I'm deaf and they say whatever they say, move over or on your right or whatever they say. I don't know they're coming until they're whizzing right past me. And my dog might be a little bit ahead of me and I don't know to keep her in safety's path. So that's very difficult.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Katie, your neighbor would put a vest on you that says deaf.
No, it's not a bad idea because it's so true. Like, I would not think like that.
Right.
Yeah, and so they're not thinking like that
Right.
at all.
I know.
They think that
that
people can hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh. Did you feel like you were isolated too? Were you afraid to go out places, Jeannie, or?
I'm not afraid to go out places, but I am isolated in group activities because I don't know what's going on.
And she wound up coming. She spent, I think, a week to 10 days with me. I had my kids. We got to know each other very well. Her major concern is I had feelings of animosity towards her for giving me up. And no, I never did. I just figured in 1948, you're a single woman pregnant, what would you do? She had two choices, and I'm grateful for the one she picked.
You could go out sometimes for weeks and not any contact, but then you'd have contact one day and it'll last one day or a couple of hours, or it could last 2 or 3 days. But we constantly were going into hostile territory. Mm-hmm. An interesting fact. In World War II, a frontline outfit had an average, I think, of 48 to 82 days of combat in a 3-year period.
Oh, okay.
Okay. The average combat by a platoon in Vietnam had 242 days of combat in 1 year.
That's a lot. It's a lot.
So it's a lot. And the reason for that is because in World War II there were no helicopters.
I would tell people to be as open as you can. And I would talk about, look, there's all these different factors in adoption. And there's the cost of the adoption, there's whether you are going to be gender specific or not, there is, and all of these things that adoptive families can decide for themselves, how much they're willing to be open to as far as the race of the child, as far as drug exposure for a child, potential health issues. And I tell people, look, try and figure out for you what's the most important thing and what's the most important thing for your family that you just can't give on.
About 10% of the people that visit the park get to see a wolf.
Oh, wow.
And that's always a huge excitement when they get to see a wolf. And almost everybody asks me every day, are we going to see a wolf? Are we going to see a wolf? So it's a big draw. That's what people want to see. We see caribou pretty much every single day. Usually, once in a while, there's a short little period of time where they kind of disappear. And you don't see them, a bunch of them, but usually every day you see a lot of them, to the point where people are like, okay, we're done with caribou. We're not stopping for caribou anymore. And we, it seems like if I get stuck on something, it's going to be the moose. But you're going to pretty much see moose, Dall sheep, bear, and caribou. Those four you'll see pretty much.
The ways that you can recognize your intuition are the chills that you get. Sometimes it's that gut feeling where you have like a gut feeling and you shouldn't do something. Sometimes it's just a thought that comes into your head. Oh, I should go here. Or, yeah, I should go to that networking group because I know I'm going to meet somebody. It's listening to that small inner voice within. And the tough thing about intuition is it's not loud.
There's so much stuff that you need to be thinking about and doing before you even get to send anyone a resume. When you know that 75-80% of all the jobs that are filled, and this is the same for Australia, UK and the US, they're pretty much the same statistics. Those numbers, that represents all the jobs that are filled are via personal and professional contacts and networks. Like as little as 15 to 20% come from a recruitment company or a job board.
I borrowed a car. I had $3 in my pocket. I could pay that $3 of gas and get to work in LA to make $11 an hour. Or I could eat for 50 cents. I couldn't afford a 50 cents taco. I didn't know you could go behind stores and go in the dumpsters and grab the food. If I'd known that, I'd have been rich. But no, I literally couldn't afford that taco one day and I was starving. I hadn't eaten in a day or two. But I had to get to work and I borrowed a car. And then a guy next day says, hey, if you clean my garage, I'll feed you. Thank you. Absolutely. He didn't have money, but he did what he could.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He gave me $5 as well that day, but I was happy as a pig in poo. It was. I mean, because I had a dream, though. It wasn't, oh, poor me, I'm starving.
Yeah.
No, I had a dream. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I want to be. This is where I want to go. And people live through those dreams. Oh, yeah, come stay on my couch tonight. Oh, yeah, let me help you. Let me use my car, Yeah. It's hard when you're trying to get out of it, but it's just the way it goes.
Reminds me that engages you in that same curious way that you were as a kid, that kind of childlike wonder kind of way, and engage with that side of your brain, because what you will start to see is news stories won't just pop up, but things about art that are interesting to you, or science that are, you'll start to see what we see on our side, which is this array of media that's not just news. There's so much information coming out about science and art and politics. Are not the only thing in the world. I think we now think that media is politics, but it's not. It can be so many other informing things. So if you start to let yourself get curious in that childlike wonder way, the algorithms will start to work in sort of the opposite direction. They will start to show you more positive, more interesting, more curiosity, positive, not morbid, curiosity driven things. And you'll start to consume those more and find those outlets. They'll start to come to you. Algorithms are supposed to serve us that way. So really, I think it starts with taking a gauge on what channels are currently coming in, and then seeking out channels that engage with that childlike wonder and curiosity that make you feel fascinated by the world and make you feel uplifted by the world. And other than ever widening circles, which obviously I can be a champion of, you will find other places that will engage with that kind of side of your brain, which is different for everybody.
The thing with autism is this is the term that you hear, the saying here all the time is, if you've met one child with autism, you have met one child with autism. Every kid is different and their requirements are different. So I, of course, now know Maxim's needs most of the time, but there are times I'm just trying to read him to figure out how I'm going to react. And sometimes I'll react sternly, and sometimes I'll react with 0 words because he needs silence, and sometimes I have to react with really loving words. And that happens from a day-to-day basis. So that's where, being in a school setting for him is challenging sometimes.
Right, because I would...
People don't know how to do that.
I wouldn't either. What, to people who don't understand autism, and you're meeting an autistic child, what would you recommend, or how would you deal with that situation, or positive things to do and not things to do?
Well, again, every kid is so different, so you have to look to the parents or the caregivers or the teachers. A lot of kids don't like to be touched. Maxim is fine with touch unless he's in a bit of a tizzy, and then sometimes he doesn't want to be touched, and he really will let you know that. But I would say in general, loud noises and not touching, those aren't the things you're going to put out right away if you're going to meet a kid, or even if there's a kid in a social group.
That how a person feels affects their money supply, because money is a form of energy exchange. It doesn't have an energy of its own except for the energy you apply to it. And the energy that got applied to it was all in the subconscious area. So I put together Financially Fit, which is the bridge between the planning side of the world and the healing esoteric side of the world. It's kind of that middle intersecting point, because how you feel about yourself is how money responds in your life. And that's what I've seen continually for the last few years.
Well, for me, I've evolved to the point where there is no death, just a transition from this duality physical world into the spiritual world. I think everybody knows about NDE, the near-death experience. So based on that, assuming that they've experienced that and what they saw and came back to tell us the story, I'm in a space where I have no grief for someone passing. It's more of a celebration for them to get to the place where there is no pain and they're totally blissed out. So if you get into a place of knowing that, obviously we go through grief, if I'm going to go through that, it's just a question of how long do you stay there? Is it a split second, a minute, a day, or you take it to the grave? Where a lot of people that I know, they're still grieving and they'll grieve forever until they're gone, right?
So I always say that every adopted child has in the back of their brain somewhere a little spot. And within that spot, it's the feelings of, why did someone give me away? And didn't somebody want me? So lots of people get over that. It's like you draw a line in the sand and you just continue on with your life. But some people struggle with it.
How old were you when you were adopted?
1 day.
Oh, where were you adopted? Do you know?
I was adopted in Chicago.
Helping others. People don't understand that by helping others is so healthy for you. People don't understand it. So I made a speech once, told them that anyone that goes around and helps and does that is a hero. I says, if you consider a hero as a person that helps and does the right thing and is helping the situation, they're a hero. No matter who it is, it could be anybody, So in a way, being a hero, it keeps you active to a point where you're cognizant of what's going on, So so you got to stay in touch, Yeah. And a lot of times when something is not right with you, and you say, "Wow, I'm an unlucky guy," that's not true, because sometimes something that's not right with you gets you to think about being right. And when you think about being right, you're really correcting your deficit. And that's important. You don't want to get behind the 8 ball. You want to be ahead, you know? So that's why it makes you think, when you got a problem, it makes you think about correcting it.
And I've realized it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to make a mistake. It's all about how you recover from that, how you apologize for it if you've hurt somebody, how you just go about life. And, you know, instead of being all upset that you made a mistake, sit back and go, what was the lesson I was supposed to learn? Learn the lesson.
Forgive others, forgive yourself. I mean, that's really one of the biggest words in this world is forgiveness. Mm-hmm. I believe that we can't learn how to be a forgiving, loving, unconditional soul unless we've had to forgive and love through conditions that were hard. Anybody can unconditionally love when everything's easy. So,
that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, when I hear, you know, your life story, and I think about my life story, I feel like I had such an easy life, and yet I still have, you know, we all still have issues. So you don't have to, you know, have a horrible life to you know, recognize that these things help you.
Right. Yeah. And you know what? Some of my clients have never touched anything illegal or any alcohol or they've never had any of that. In my book, the 5 V's.
At SFBI, you're one of 2 bakers doing everything from mix to bake. So you would get exposure on everything. You get experience mixing the bread, you get experience like managing the fermentation, experience laminating croissants, shaping the bread, and baking the bread, and everything in between. So you really get to touch and see the whole thing from start to finish, which is really important because, you know, you don't really know how well you're doing on the mix unless you see how they bake up at the end of the day.
We are, each center throughout the country, we are all our own independent 501c3 organization. Where we all have different startup dates. We're all founded at different times in history. This particular center was founded in 1971. It's the 4th oldest LGBT center in the country. We are, however, partners with all of the other centers across the country, and we're linked a few different ways, but specifically, I think, primarily through Centerlink, which is a national association of LGBT centers, and Centerlink is kind of the hub for information flow, for trainings, for current events, for legislative information. That's
liberating experience to just put less pressure on myself to make everyone happy.
That's a very good life perspective, and that's good that you learn to deal with that. I think everybody learns to deal with that, and some people are still learning to deal with that. Yeah, I think thoughts are super important, and so I'm always trying to think positive, and I tell that to my kids, and, you know, definitely your intentions and what you're thinking about, I think, really do affect you.
Oh, yeah, and I think where we falter is thinking that we don't have control over that, because we do. You know, you can say, hey, I'm being really mean to myself in my head right now. Let me turn this around. Like, let me go for a walk, get perspective.
Yes. So good. Such good information.